So I guess this is going to be a pretty short video if this is the case, but I will put hand on heart and say my number one rig, the thing I feel most myself and comfortable with, is this guitar, this baritone guitar, this amp, and the pedals that you saw there for this rig. Ultimately, if I was left with just, one guitar, one amp, and a small amount of pedals, there'd be a couple of other pedals I'd include, like a fuzz and the Jan Ray overdrive. But ultimately, this is what I love playing the most. But that wouldn't make a very fun video if it was just 2 minutes long, and also a baritone guitar, which I know a lot of you don't play a baritone guitar. So I thought what we'd do today is I would come up with a few different simple-ish rigs that I'll set some categories for. So this is essentially going to end up being the sort of studio rig gear update. The first one in 2 years. It was about 2 years ago I did one of these, and quite a few people have asked me to do an updated one. I thought what we'd do is we'd go through categories of guitars, single coils, humbuckers, maybe split that into Telecasters and Strats, Les Pauls and other humbucking guitars, and P90s. I'm not going to go very slowly. I think you probably want to get this over and done with before bedtime. I don't know what time of day you're watching this, but you know what I mean. So let's get things kicked off with Strats. So let's start by looking at the amp pile, so to speak. I have the two rocks behind me, the Rift Ainsley Lister, there's a little Champ over there, and then we have two bigger tweed amps, the 633 Engineering KF30, the Lazy J J10. Then we've got the Magnatone here, that's the Twilighter, the mono version. My 1967 vintage Vibrolux, a Tone Master Super Reverb, and a reissue Vibrolux. Sadly, that Vibrolux needs servicing. It's making some odd noises. I think it probably either needs a new tube or some sort of other thing, obviously. I need to take that. The Magnatone, the reason you haven't seen it on the channel much recently is it has also developed a fault. Magnatone were reasonably helpful in themselves, but not massively so. They didn't offer to, even though it should really be under warranty, it was a new amp. They didn't really suggest anything other than, try changing the tubes, or maybe it's the speaker. So contacted John at Peach, and at some point later this month, I'll be taking it back to Peach, and he said he'll do whatever it takes to make sure it works perfectly after that, whether he has to keep it for a while or figure it out on the spot. So you're not going to hear the Magnatone or the Vibrolux today. You're not going to hear that Vibrolux or that Super Reverb. I think I've got this nailed down to some rigs that involve the two rocks, the Rift, and these couple of tweeds here. So let's kick things off with Strats. If I had to have a Strat rig, what am I going for? Okay, I'll need this, that, and this. I currently have 4 Strats. I'd say this is my number one. It could even be my number one guitar apart from the baritone overall. This is my Ron Thorn Masterbuilt, which I bought last year, and I've changed the pickups. They've got pickups from JW Restoration. Joel makes really great sort of vintage style. These are his Strat pickups, which are based on sort of mid-50s maple neck, maple fretboard type Strats, basically this type of Strat. And for me, it took the guitar from sounding great with the pickups it came with, which were hand-wound Josefina pickups, to sounding really exceptionally for what I wanted and full of character and personality. But I took those hand-wound pickups, those Josefinas, and I put them in here. So this is my 1989 Strat, my first ever guitar. Those have now got those in. It sounds huge. And this is like my most Jimi Hendrix style guitar. Then I've got this Paul Waller Masterbuilt, which is one of my most unusual guitars, I'd say. It's a hardtail HSS Strat, but not HSS in a sort of super Strat 80s way. It's got a vintage vibe, hand-wound Josefina Fat 50s again, and a hand-wound humbucker from Paul Waller himself. And it has its own thing, which I've used on the channel quite a lot. And then a very special guitar here, which is my John Case Guitars 62 style slab board Strat, and this has got the Foley pickups from Peach. They're called the one, I think they're SRV type, and so this is my most SRV type guitar. So I've done lots of videos with all these Strats in, but we're just going to have a quick listen to the classic Reverb, the Dominion Fuzz, and the Jan Ray doing their thing. Interesting year for me for humbucker guitars and for Gibson in particular. I've got 3 Les Pauls here, the gold SG, which is just so cool to me, and a lot of people comment about that being their favorite of my guitars. We've got the 61 335 dot with the real vintage paths in. This one I had before 2022, but I got new pickups for it in 2022. Then we've got the 1956 vintage Junior, which I'm in the middle of trying to sell. I've got a couple of interested people and someone coming soon to have a look. And not Gibson, but humbuckers, the Paul Reed Smith special semi-hollow body. And this is my most modern looking, most different guitar for me. You know, almost everything else is very vintage inspired. This is here because it's a bloody amazing guitar. I used to have a special semi-hollow, which I thought was good. This one, though, is, I mean, it's so lively. It's brilliant. So I might play that in a minute too. But a quick rundown here. We've got my R9 that has the Sun Bear paths in that were made specially for this guitar. Stuart at Sun Bear will sometimes make humbuckers specially for certain projects, or if there's a problematic guitar, he'll listen to the guitar acoustically and come up with a set that suits it. So that's what's in here, and it's made this guitar much better than it was, much more balanced, much more listenable, playable. Then we've got probably my, out of these 3, if I could only keep one, I'd probably keep this. This is the R0, the version 2, so that means it's got the die that will fade on the front, and it's still got the but it's still got the smaller 60 style neck. So it's not exactly like an R9. It's between an R9 and the later R0, the V3. And then this is my Peach Select Top R9, which is also fantastic, and just much more balanced of a guitar than my other R9, and just a great all-round Les Paul. Then, as I said, this has still got custom buckers in. This is the Custom Shop 64 in TV Gold. Then we've got the PAFs here, which this guitar is just fantastic. It's lively, balanced, great to play, pretty fast neck, Really enjoy it. Don't use it all the time on the channel. I mean, how much can you use a pretty, an expensive vintage Gibson? It's not going to be too relatable for a lot of people, and so I just don't use it all the time on the channel, but I pick it up pretty often when I'm practicing, when I'm playing about. Then I've got the Marcus King here, and I've not really done a video about the new pickups in here, but these are also Sun Bear pickups, which have made this guitar. So Marcus King obviously is an amazing guitar player. I love his phrasing, his feel, his songwriting, his speed, everything. I'm very different from that. I'm not fast. I don't have great phrasing yet, working on it. And so I wanted the guitar to be a bit less hot. So we've gone for some more sort of relaxed PAFs. I think they're 57 SB PAFs. And then the Junior with that gorgeous P90. I think we should quickly hear the R0, the SG, and the PAFs, the real PAFs. 25-30 seconds of each through the Ainsley Lister, the Rift Ainsley Lister, which is just such a great amp for humbuckers. It's poised, great mids, lovely reverb, gorgeous. So let's go for that. Probably won't even use any pedals. Which of these would be my humbucker rig? Well, if I was going out to play just with a humbucker guitar, I would probably take the Rift Ainsley Lister as the amp. It's probably the only amp I've got where I don't need pedals really at all. I mean, it was designed for Ainsley Lister, who doesn't really use pedals. I certainly didn't use them as much then when he had this amp made. And you can just set it quite hot and then use your guitar volume. In terms of which of these guitars would I take, I think the two ES guitars are so special. I mean, that's a vintage 61. This is the Marcus King. Probably wouldn't take them out unless it was a really nice venue. So those are unlikely to come out. And of the rest of them, I could pick the R0, the Select Top R9, the Gold SG, or the Paul Reed Smith, and be absolutely happy that I've got that with me. They're all amazing guitars for me. If I was sort of playing as myself, let's say I wasn't doing covers or something, and I wanted to, this is my I guess, my guitar personality, hopefully, then I'd probably take the Gold SG. I just think it's a bit different. Great to play, gorgeous, very light, very. It's got just a really great feeling to it, and I think that sort of pops out to you when you listen to it as well. Okay, I'm going to move on to something else. Well, I'm a big fan of Telecasters. Like, I think a lot of guitar lovers are. This is where it really all started for me anyway, in terms of electric guitars, the Telecaster. And I have my 3 Telecasters here. I sold a custom shop Lake Placid Blue 52 reissue this last year, and I still have the Broadcaster that I've had for a while. This is a custom shop Journeyman relic Broadcaster, which I love. This is the most sort of, what's the right word, rock sounding of these 3. Rock and country it would be great for. This, I love this guitar. This is a Danocaster, and we're going to hear this in a minute through the Lazy J, and I'll tell you more about it then. And then my most recent acquisition, this is made from a very cool whiskey crate from Berry Brothers and Rudd. This would have been Cutty Sark Scotch, I think. And very cool, handmade, or, boutique made by David Payne at the Boatyard Workshop. Great neck, really cool guitar with the hip shot. And I made a video about this just last week, which you can watch. So let's go ahead and listen to the Danocaster, and I'll tell you a bit more about it. So I particularly like this Telecaster, the Danocaster. I'd heard good things about Danocasters, and this one just came about by chance. In this last year, I got this. I swapped it for the black Gibson Custom Shop ES355. That was cool. It was a 59 spec, but I'd never fully bonded with it. Just wasn't quite what I was after, and I had these other red ES guitars. And I love butterscotch and blonde type Telecasters. They're just, just something that I have fallen for. And this particular one, I was really interested because of the Ron Ellis pickups. He's one of those makers in the industry that has a sort of almost mythical status to him in a way. And this is a pretty hot and spiky bridge pickup. This is a very mellow, tall neck pickup. Has a very stratty quality to it. And in fact, the middle position on here is probably my favorite thing. It just works between the brightness, the mellowness, just comes together really well. And then just the playability of this guitar. The neck has this lovely satin oil sort of feel to it. Really smooth, but not gloopy at all. Just a gorgeous guitar. And I really just like everything about this. So as far as Telecasters go, pretty happy with that. And that was through the Lazy J, which is just a marvel of an amp. I love the fact that it's not in a small enclosure. So this is, like a bigger enclosure than a 10 watt amp might normally have had. I think it's based on the 20 watt version, and it feels like a bigger amp. And it just works so well because it breaks up at the right point for a lot of uses. Home use, recording use. I mean, it could still be loud for home use, but you have this attenuator here. Pull that back, and it works until it's pretty quiet. It's not super high tech feeling, but it just does work. And then I've done a video earlier in the year, quite a detailed one, showing how the interactive volumes can be so interactive and so sort of effective against the sound you want. Just very, very, very cool. I could think that this could be any small gig. This would just be a perfect amp for so many people, so many different types of guitars. Incredible reverb, beautiful tremolo, very well made feeling amp. Just feels tight, but it has this sort of visceral quality to it when you turn it up. And then great for the volume levels that you're made to play at these days with that attenuator. So that is a forever piece for me. I'm never going to get rid of the Lazy J. It just has a feeling to it. Really, all the amps I've shown you today, the two Rocks, the Lazy J, the Rift, the vintage Vibrolux and Magnatone, and then the last amp, which I'll show you in a second, which is very darkly unlit over there. I'll move it over here. These are all keeper amps for me. But at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you what's coming up in the next year, and there might be something pretty cool coming as well. Okay, we've only got a couple more guitars to go. Let's see what they are. Okay, you might be pleased to know there's no more playing in this video. I'm aware that this sort of video can get pretty long. So I just wanted to finish off with the last few guitars that I have here that you don't necessarily see too often on the channel. This gorgeous gold top from Case Guitars with some Bear 56 P90s in, and an almost sort of twin, except this is a 59 style burst in the Case sort of style. This is a 54 gold top, and in there at the moment I've got bare knuckle PG Blues, which I quite like them. They may not stay in there forever, but they're pretty cool. They're PG Blues means Peter Green, and they're sort of out of phase in the middle position, so they have this sort of interesting bluesy tone. What else have we got around? You can probably barely see that. I'm turning up the ISO on the camera. There's the Revolta Baritone, which I actually do use quite a lot in practice in different tunings from my other Baritone. Then over here, we've got this pink acoustic, which you'll notice is signed. That is signed by Paul Reed Smith. Recently, I was doing a charity, well, I have a charity project called the Pink Guitar Project. I was doing a speech one evening at Peach when Paul Reed Smith was coming to give his evening. And he came up on stage and surprised me with this to sell for charity or raffle off. So that'll be raffled off at some point soon. You can follow the Pink Guitar Project on Instagram to know when raffles are going to be. And seeing as I'm talking about it, there's some other gear lying about that's related to that. There's this really cool germanium booster from Long Island Sound. We have pink cables. Oh, and over here, hidden away in the nook, we have this very cool Mark I style tone bender, which is just fantastic from Zero Amplification. And then from Bleak District Electric, we have this great sort of chorus vibe phaser pedal, the Mirage, which has got our logo on it. You'll see more of this stuff on the channel soon, but basically you'll be able to win this and a number of amazing boutique built fuzz pedals. And then the 633, which I've decided in the end not to play today. Just it's been on the channel a lot recently, so you can go back through the last several videos. It's a really cool amp. It's got its own sort of great drive characteristics, but it's fantastic for pedals. It's got quite a lot of headroom for a Tweed. It's 35 watts. And it's just really well built sort of amp. I could totally imagine this going out on the road. I mean, Kirk Fletcher toured with this particular amp, not this exact one, but this model of amp. Just really well built, really suitable for loads of things, really usable at different volumes. Going to be a more in-depth video there soon. Okay, we've got a couple more things to chat about. I have here this Pelham Blue Epiphone SG, and I'm going to use that on the channel soon because this is going to be the 10,000 sub giveaway, and I think it's a pretty damn cool guitar. And I'm thinking I might. We'll play with these pickups. I haven't used this guitar a lot in a long time. We'll play with these pickups, see how they sound. If we don't love them, we'll put some bears in there, which could be pretty epic for a giveaway. So subscribe to the channel now and we'll get there sooner. And we've still got to do the 7,500 sub giveaway, which is the white protein pedal. If you sub and comment, you'll be in that giveaway wherever you are in the world. So there's two things left really. What's coming up on the channel this year, and what in conclusion are my rigs if I were gigging, if you saw me out. And I really hope that in 2024 will be my first year out there playing live. I know I keep pushing it away, but live stuff gets in the way and I just haven't had a chance to really consider it recently. But I'm practicing a lot and enjoying all of this gear. And I know I'm really lucky to have it. I really enjoy it. Get to use a lot of it frequently. A lot of people ask me in comments, why, how do you choose what to use? I walk in pretty much 5 days a week to spend a few hours in here, if not more, and something will draw me, whether it's the Baritone over there, whether it's one of the Les Pauls. Quite often it will be my Thorn Strat or my Case Strat or the Telecaster. Those are the ones I seem to pick up the most often. And if you were to see me live, there's a very good chance I'd have the green baritone, the Castadosa, a very good chance I would have the Thorn Strat, and then if I needed a third guitar, which is probably not likely, but depending on the type of music, it could be the SG, it could be the R0, or it could be the Telecaster. And those are the ones you're most likely to see me out and about with, that I love playing, really feel like they fit me like a glove, and I enjoy. And amps wise, well, the TS1, if I have the space in a gig, if it's a big enough place, you know, not a tiny pub, it would be the TS1, or it could be the Rift or the Lazy J. I mean, any of them. They're all the amps. I'm a real amp lover. If anything, as much as or more than guitars, amps are what I really enjoy talking about, and you know, that's where the sound comes from. So clear as mud, really. But yeah, if I was ever going to make music, there's a very good chance it'd be on the baritone. There's a sound there, that low frequency, that just gets me going every time. Right, so to finish up, what's coming up on the channel this year? I don't have plans to buy many more guitars at the moment, but I did put an order in last year for an Iverson Dakota, and that is a Les Paul shaped guitar with Firebird pickups in, but actually they're Sunbird pickups. But I had having it custom made in shell pink with some aging. It's going to be very cool, and hopefully coming to the channel in 4 to 8 weeks now. And I'm not going to talk much more about it, and just wait till we get it in. I think it's going to be super cool to have Firebird type pickups here, to have another British boutique maker on the channel, and just to see how it sounds and how it plays. I'm very excited. And there's been a lot of questions about why I'm selling my 56 Junior, my vintage 56 Junior. And it was because I just wasn't quite comfortable with my hand, you know, on the neck. But also I've got a deposit down on the new Joey Landreth 2-Rock. I've had quite a few messages from people saying, did you see this? Are you getting one? Yes, immediately that it was announced, basically on the New Year's Day. I didn't think it was coming this year. I knew about the amp because through my Pink Guitar project, I've had some connection with Joey Landreth, and I knew that the amp was coming at some point. And yeah, as soon as I saw it launched, I was like, I've got to. I can't, being that my channel is quite been based around 2-Rock amps, you know, maybe sporadically, but you know, really they're a set of amps that I love. I have to go for this Joey Landreth. So if you don't know anything about it, the Joey Landreth amp is going to be built on the big chassis of the Silver Sterling. It's 100 watts and it has tremolo in it, harmonic and bias both. You can control them, you can have them both on at the same time. And then the front end preamp is between Bloomfield Drive and TS1, and a bit more sag and squidge than the Bloomfield, but still high headroom. It sounds to me like it could be the perfect 2-Rock amp, and I can't wait for that. But it's probably going to be a good 6 to 9 months away for it to be imported here. So I'll keep you updated on that as I go along. I thought I'd finish by talking about what my most indispensable pedals are. If I was left with, you know, 5 or so pedals, it's gone up and down over the last few years. And, you know, you get a new pedal and you're often excited. I haven't actually bought a pedal in quite a long time, so I've had time for it to all settle down. Really, the only pedals where I'm very specific about the actual pedal itself as opposed to the type of effect. This Analog Man ARD X20 wasn't really that expensive, bought it secondhand on Reverb. Maybe it was 200 to 300 quid, maybe 300 quid. But just everything about it is great. It's simple to use. It's got A and B, so the same controls twice. You can go between them. And it's just a beautiful, warm analog delay sound. It makes everything sound better. So I just almost always have that on, even when there's not much of a delay coming through. And then these two overdrive pedals are my main ones at the moment that I wouldn't want to be without. The Jam Ray for Strats, for Telecasters, for Humbuckers, anything really, just works great. But if I'm playing slide, I love this Clone, the Mjolnir. And I put it next to a real Clone once, and it does sound slightly different. It's got its own character, but in the same sort of vein. And it's just high quality sound. And I often pair it with the slide rig. With the Baritone, these two together, it just sounds massive and full. Quite a lot of warmth, but also a lot of openness. And the slide rig, you don't need it to play slide, and I don't always use it, but when I do, it allows me to do certain things. And then a couple of other pedals that I love and sort of need. A fuzz, it would be between the Dominion and this SM fuzz, octave fuzz at the moment. It's got octave and normal on there. I use that a lot. I use this a lot. But I could try out other fuzzes, and ultimately I've tried, let's say I've tried 20 fuzzes. These have been my favorite. And then the Austin Pride by Dan Drive, I'd be equally happy really, but I just about prefer these. And then I love the Chula. Sometimes the amp is just not doing what I want. Click this on and somehow it just makes everything open and big. And just, yeah, it gives you that slight different sound. Those pedals all together are the ones I couldn't do without. Everything else is great. And yeah, almost every pedal I've tried gives you some sort of inspiration or does something. Not everyone, but a lot of them. I love the Blues Power. Could swap that for the January. It's pretty simple. Some of this stuff, the Broadcast, is really interesting. The Shanks, I love the Shanks. I've used it a lot. I'm just not in that mode at the moment of using that more harmonic overdrive. I'm into more open and transparent stuff right now. Before I got the Analog Man delay, this was my favorite. I still really like it. I love the Origin Effects stuff. That's really cool. The Harmonious Monk, great for tremolo if I need that. Once I get the Joey Landreth amp though, probably won't need that. Really, that's it. I can't go through absolutely everything I have, not every pedal. There's a few guitars that are sort of put away in cases that I don't use very often. But I hope you got an idea of what's going on with me and my gear at the moment, what I'm playing the most, what I'm interested in playing, what sort of sounds I'm developing out of all this. And yeah, I'll probably do this again in another couple of years. I hope that answers some of the questions you've had down in the comments. If I've missed something out or you want to ask me something, ask me in the comments. I'll make sure to answer quite any comments that come along that are of constructive and interesting nature. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.